Ahead of the ruling party's national convention to produce its presidential candidate for the 2023 election, President Muhammadu Buhari today met with 22 governors of the APC, where he appealed that he had given them the opportunity to choose, that he should be given the opportunity to choose a successor. The meeting took place at the presidential villa in Abuja. State House correspondent Adesuwa Omorwa reports.
Who becomes President Muhammadu Buhari's successor remains his best-kept secret.
Thank you. National Anthem, please.
Here at the council chambers, the president is meeting with the 22 APC governors. Also in attendance are the national chairman of the party, secretary to the government of the federation, and the president's chief of staff. Just as the meeting is about to commence, the media is asked to leave. It came to light that during the less than 30 minutes meeting, issues discussed focused on giving guidance on who should emerge as the flag bearer of the party amid the screening of the presidential aspirants by the committee led by former Edo State Governor and former APC National Chairman John Oyegun. Without giving any specifics in a statement, media advisor to the president, Femi Adesina, quoted the president as saying the candidate will be such an individual that will give the Nigerian masses a sense of victory and confidence ahead of the 2023 polls. He added that the president noted that the party must maintain internal cohesion and a strong leadership brand to achieve bigger electoral fortunes, while appealing to the governors to allow interest to converge. The governors were said to have pledged their support to the president to achieve a successful convention. But soon after the meeting, in a speech made public, the president told the governors about a succession plan. In paragraph 7, in pursuit of the foregoing objectives, the party has successfully established internal policies that promote continuity and smooth succession plans, even at the state and local government levels. It goes on to say, for example, first-term governors who have served credibly well have been encouraged to stand for re-election. Similarly, second-term governors have been accorded the privilege of promoting successors that are capable of driving their visions as well as the ideals of the party. And in paragraph 10, in keeping with the established internal policies of the party, and as we approach the convention in a few days, therefore, I wish to solicit the reciprocity and support of the governors and other stakeholders in picking my successor, who would fly the flag of our party for election into the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in 2023. End quote. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has left the country to Spain at the invitation of President Pedro Sanchez and is expected back on June 3rd, just before the presidential primary of his party. Adesuwa Omorwa, Arise News.
All right, a lot to talk about.
Yes, I have just 3 words and then Latin. Quid pro quo. This is what the president is saying. And he's never been perceived, has he, as a micromanager. But it goes to show, even the most detached presidential style, they're not going to let the chips fall where they may when it comes to their successor. He definitely has somebody specific in mind. And he talked about the person being a person that will give the party victory and also give the Nigerian masses a sense of victory. So what's on his mind is victory. That's it. So we all wonder who that person is. It will all be revealed in time, I'm sure. But this is not going to go down too well with some of those 23 aspirants. It's quite clear that people have put in their effort, their time, and hundreds of millions of naira. After buying the form, having to traverse the length and breadth of the country, I hope what we saw with PDP's primary is not going to repeat itself with APC's, but it does appear that money exchanges hands towards the delegates. So this is a lot of money that's been involved in this process. There have been donations all over the place. Now the president is making it quite clear that he has one person in mind. Now the president is just one member of the APC, but he's not just anybody. He's the leader of the party, and his voice does count. It matters. And I do think that what the president decides is where everything is going to go as far as the APC is concerned. Now, with the other aspirants who are, disappointed, dejected, go the Governor Wike route, express their disappointment but still continue to work for the party, or will they flounce off in a huff and work against the party? So that victory that the president so badly wants for his party could be jeopardized by members of his own party. And speaking of members of his own party, there's this growing chorus of disapproval against the national chairman, Senator Adamu, because I was talking about this a few days ago. The national chairman in Northwest, Dr. Lukman, wrote a letter criticizing him for taking unilateral decisions, not carrying along the NWC, saying this is no different from what APC experienced under Adams Oshomole and under the interim situation with Governor Mai Mala Buni. And it appears that more people are becoming vocal, publicly vocal. So the party really needs to draw together, close ranks, or risk imploding, as we have seen before with the PDP, and that cost them power.
Dr. Abati?
Okay. A number of principles attached to this narrative. The first is that before now, President Muhammadu Buhari had said that he had in mind a candidate, but that he would not name that candidate in that famous interview because he did not want anything untoward to happen to that person. Okay? So at that point in the narrative, the president made it very clear that he has a preferred candidate. Now the APC has 23 candidates who were screened Monday, Tuesday. So it looks to me that the president is playing mind games. In the context of the screening process, he invited the 23 governors of the APC. And he told them, he said, look, in this party, we have allowed governors who are seeking a second term, first-term governors who are seeking a second term, to have the option of the first refusal. And if you look at all the governors in the APC who had the opportunity to have the opportunity of a second term, all of them have been granted that. Now, retiring governors on the platform of the APC have also been given the opportunity to choose their successors. We were told that at that meeting, that the president held with these 23 APC governors, he did not say this is the person I want. But he reminded them that one good turn deserves another. That's the point about your quid pro quo. That's the meaning. And he told them that, look, if I've been nice enough to direct the party in a direction whereby first-term governors can get a second term, second-term governors can choose who their successors are, the president told them that he's asking for reciprocity. Okay, that reciprocity will mean that President Muhammadu Buhari, as reported in the papers, I've not seen anybody refuting that report, wants to choose his own successor. He wants to anoint his own successor. And maybe you say, well, he's acting on the principle of precedence. In 2007, right, President Olusegun Obasanjo insisted that he would choose his own successor. He chose Umaru Yar'Adua. When people said, oh, Umaru Yar'Adua is sick and all that, he even placed a phone call to his chosen,
after he collapsed,
anointed, his anointed successor, and asked him, Umaru. He didn't call him Umaru. He said, Umaru. Yeah, they say you are not okay. Are you okay? And Umaru also responded to him. The only president who has not had the opportunity in recent times, since the return to democratic rule in 1999, to anoint his own successor, is President Goodluck Jonathan. So it's a very familiar script. But the question that hangs out there is that, should we have a situation in Nigeria whereby governors anoint their own successors, as we have seen in Enugu State under the PDP, as we have seen in Akwa Ibom State under the APC, with Udom Emmanuel saying that he will choose his own successor, as we have seen in Bauchi State, where Bala Mohammed chose his own successor, and the successor has now said, no, I don't want to be governor. And the principle, the rule of substitution is going to be in place. Bala Mohammed having lost at the federal level. And in many of these states, we have seen, persons who either as presidents or as governors become overlords, and they determine what happens after them. In some of the states, it will lead to a deluge, a primordial deluge, the French say. Okay, so in this particular case, therefore, everybody is waiting. Who is that consensus candidate of President Muhammadu Buhari? And is this democratic? Is his request that all interests must converge? Is that what is going to determine the outcome of the PDP presidential primaries process? Meanwhile, from Ondo State, Governor Akeredolu is also saying that, yes, the party wants consensus. But he says that consensus candidate must come from the Southwest. And that's consistent with his position as chairman of the Southern Governors Forum, consistent with the view that has been expressed by many socio-cultural political organizations in the Southwest. So the question then is to be asked, is that consensus candidate that the president seems to be hinting at going to come from the Southwest? Would that consensus candidate come from the North? Consistent with the choice that has been made by the neighbors, the People's Democratic Party. This entire process having been reduced willingly to a two-party process. So these are the questions up there, but we hope that the president will remain committed, as he has always said, to the integrity of the process. And a part of the legacy that he will hand over, from which he himself benefited, will be the transparency, the credibility, the integrity of the electoral process.
One thing is certain. President Muhammadu Buhari is a man that I have studied so well that doesn't say too much, but when he says a little, he says enough. I am not surprised. He said it last year in the interview he had with a TV network, that I know my successor, but I can't mention him. That if I mention him, they will kill him. So when he says he knows his successor, he also means that he will deliver his successor. Because that speech, when he said, I know my successor, I know who wants to succeed me, it's sort of like a fait accompli. I want it to happen. It will happen. And that has always been the norm. Is it right? No. But you see, Nigeria is a country that many things that are not right happen. That's why somebody will fail as a governor. And he says when somebody fails, he should repeat the class.
How's his dad?
All right? That's the kind of country we are built. That everybody has an entitlement mentality that will bring their successor. It's not only about even putting their successor. Are they not putting their wives as senatorial candidates? The wife of former Governor Obiano is the senatorial candidate now in Anambra State, and she might merge senator.
And she will go to the assembly to slap people.
Yes.
Slap.
Yes.
Can we not forgive the
So
past?
she might merge candidate. She might merge senator because APGA is a top party in the state, and if she goes there and somebody says anything unto us, she shows them. That's the kind of country we'll be. Aren't we seeing country where the sons and family relatives of former leaders in this country all have positions? That's the kind of country we are built for ourselves. So if President Muhammadu Buhari is saying now that he wants his own successor, he's just doing it the Nigerian way. It's very sad to say that has become the norm in Nigeria. But that's the Nigerian way. Let's not deceive ourselves. And he's giving the governors something to ponder about. That I scratch your back, it's time for you to scratch my back. But will Nigeria constantly be like this? And in also picking his anointed candidate, this argument that you need a northern candidate to match up Atiku Abubakar to win an election, is it empirical enough? We've had southern candidates beat northern candidates in the election in the country with the support of the north. Also, I must have to reiterate this. It will not look well, no matter who his successor is going to be. It will not look well that after 8 years of President Muhammadu Buhari, another 8 years goes to a northern candidate. A lot of people will feel cheated. They will feel disgruntled in this country. I just have to put that in there. But good luck to him. I know by Monday next week, a lot of things will be clear. The screening of presidential aspirants, moving to the next story now, about the All Progressive Congress has ended. Some of those who had their turn yesterday included Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, Senate President Ahmed Lawan, Governors Yahaya Bello, Ben Ayade, and Kayode Fayemi, among others.
I think it's quite rigorous, and the checklist is very good, at least to be able to get to know the aspirants in totality and also get their idea of how they are going to run the affairs of the country so that we can further impact much more positively and take the country from the present level to the next level. So it's a good thing.
The process was super excellent. It was exceptional. It was phenomenal. And I feel that this goes to demonstrate how phenomenally excellent the APC is in ensuring processes delivers the right value so that Nigerians can have the best.
It was a very pleasant experience for me because I was looking forward to that engagement to express myself very well to my party through the screening committee on why I'm running to be the president of our great nation from 2023. Fundamentally, what are those issues that our party stands for? The APC, our great party, stands for constitutional amendment to make governance far better, to take government closer to the people, devolution of powers, to ensure that Nigerians get best deal in terms of governance.
There is nobody who has campaigned like the Vice President did. We went to 36 states and the FCT. So you can see that he is determined and is prepared, and he has done his own work, and he's not taking our party members for granted, and he wants to let them know his vision, his agenda, and what he will do, you know, not just for this country, but even for them as members of the party.
The interview went very well with wise men, and the selection of those panelists were well done, and there is nobody that will meet such wise men and women that will not respect our party. They have the interest of our party at heart. They have the interest of this nation at heart, and they want the best for this country. And as such, each and every one of us are being grilled. And I'm satisfied so far with all of the questions and the answers I've given to them.
Well, we talked about this, didn't we, yesterday? And I was hoping that the questions would be really deep, probing questions, starting from qualifications. We talked about that specifically with Asiwaju Tinubu, but it's not really about him. He worked in Mobile, so I don't think his qualifications are in any doubt. But it's really important that all T's are crossed and I's are dotted. Otherwise, it could cost the party if any false information is given to INEC. And it's good that the second day has gone through without any drama, no incidents. There might have been an awkward pause during the screening of Senator Rochas Okorocha when he was asked if he's under investigation by anybody, which apparently is one of the questions, because we all saw what happened with him. That might have been a tense moment there. But yes, there hasn't been news that anybody was disqualified, so the presidential screening party appears to have been happy with the qualifications of all the aspirants. Another moment that I'd be really interested, I wish I was a fly on the wall, when each aspirant was asked if they would be willing to step down for a consensus candidate, because we're told that that's one of the questions that they are asked. And I wonder if everybody agreed to that or not. And you know, they had that form, that form that they had to sign a letter. Yes, so I wonder if everybody has submitted that. That would be interesting to know.
Well, Section 84, subsection 9 of the Electoral Act, as repealed, Electoral Act 2022, which is the operative law, defines a mode of consensus, which, as you said, was one of the questions raised yesterday. And to get a consensus, which was even an issue that was indicated from the meeting of the 23 APC governors with the president of Nigeria, that section says that you must get the written consent of all the parties involved. So even as we refer to the issue of consensus, what is the guarantee that certain, all the 23 members interested will listen to the president and sign a consensus form? Even with the president, leader of the APC, president representing the party at the federal level, leading Nigeria, what is the guarantee that everybody will agree to the principle of reciprocity that he's talking about? He's weighing on the governors, 23 of them, agreeing to that. But we suspect that there will be persons within that party who will say, no, we're not agreeing to a consensus. So as the APC concludes its primaries process, the question will be, who is that person that may be recommended as a consensus candidate? In that regard, it will appear to me that all the speculations about President Goodluck Jonathan suddenly showing up nicodemously as the candidate of the APC has been eliminated. The other time, I said it on this program, that President Jonathan was on his way out of the country on an election observation mission, and that after that election observation mission, he will be on his way to England to spend some time to allow, the drama to pass. Now, when the screening took place, he didn't show up there. He's been away in Italy to attend a meeting of the European Council. Yesterday afternoon, there was an indication that, he was screened by Zoom, virtually. But we have also been told that that is not true. So, okay, maybe we should begin now, at this point, to look elsewhere. So who is that consensus candidate that the president is hinting at? But I guess, for purposes of internal democracy, the delegates of the APC, I envy them. They too are likely to be heavily dollarized, monetized, incentivized. In fact, shouldn't I just volunteer to be a delegate? Because you
have to at this point.
No, you don't have to be a member of a party to be a delegate. To go and make some quick dollars. Anyway, that's another subject entirely. So it's good that the APC finally, benefiting from the window of a 6-day opportunity offered by the Independent National Electoral Commission, has now finally done its screening. It's good for the optics. It's good to see the party going through the process. But the bigger challenge lies ahead. Because at the point at which the APC finally decides on its candidate, that's when the game will start. The game will start at the level of the personality that is chosen, at the level of the religious, ethnic, geographical, indications as a result of that choice. And then we, the commentariat, can kick into an overdrive. That's when our job will start. Because then we will have two major candidates that we can analyze to the point of exhaustion.
One thing I've learned from this process, I'm taking learnings, is the fact that politicians don't care too much about the people. 2, politicians can never be permanent enemies of each other, as long as interests align. 3, their permutation is always about themselves, not about the plight of the people. I'm sure you'll have seen that in the PDP, and quickly it's emerging in the APC. There's a gulf between the politician and the people. The gulf can be explained in the voter apathy numbers that keep increasing. But it has shown why Nigeria is the way it is today. I think what will be the challenge of our democracy in the coming years and the coming elections, 2027 and the likes, will be how to close up this gulf a bit. Because you see, the gulf is widening every day, albeit by factors of the dollarization of our political process. The delegatization, if I can use that word, and delegate dollarization of our political process, and the deodorization of corruption. Today, corruption in our political process has become a sweet-smelling savour. Almost everybody wants to hang out with the big boys. They are the delegates now. You remember that song, you want to bam bam, you want to chill with the big boys? It's the delegates that are bam banging now. All of these are the expense of the plight of the people. So one thing I can take away from this president, politicians don't care too much about you. So if you go and carry guns and die and kill yourself for a politician, the joke is on you. You can see them. They don't care.
I have a quote.
They will use dollar to buy everything.
I have a quote. A politician is a fellow who will give your life for his country.
Definitely. And he will give it gladly, and he will stand by it when your dead body is there. And he will even pay tribute to you while he's enjoying his largesse.
Oh, ye men of little faith.
No, it's not a case of
in the political class, you still get good men.
Dr. Abati,
and you need a few good men to make the country work. There were so many
good men in the political class. That's why a good man called Charles de Gaulle said, politicians will say they'll build bridges where there are no rivers. It's the Kalo they play.
What we need, we just need a few good men to move this country forward.
Okay. That's all on News Headline. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll have Road to Sodiri Michael with this one tomorrow here on Akeja to give us updates on Africa Global Business COVID-19 and supporting activities across the globe. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Arise News. Our dependable Rota Sidiri is here to give us an African business update. Good morning, Rotas.
Good morning, Tunde. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning to all our viewers. Well, it's June 1st, so the unregistered commercial motorcycle ban, aka Okada ban, goes into effect in Lagos today. The state has allayed the fears of Lagos citizens with respect to any blowback from this, saying that there's security in place, there shouldn't be any worries. And in particular, on the other side of this, people who rely on them for transportation, well, that's what needs to be, well, two things that need to be observed, whether or not they will be able to move around freely, if this is going to cause any issues with respect to fluidity in moving up and down, whether commercial bus drivers will take advantage and, raise prices, since it is expected that demand will increase for buses and so on and other forms of road transportation. And then security concerns has to be said. Whether or not there's going to be any issues there. So, we'll see how it goes. And then also, will this actually really, truly be implemented? Will we truly see a ban? So everybody who's driving in those 6 local government areas, keep your eyes peeled to see whether you see any of them moving up and down. We move to oil and gas. There's a headline here in Business, and I have to ask if this comparison needs to continue. So in Business Day headline says Saudi Arabia's $620 billion future generation fund mocks Nigeria's bleak plan. Yeah. If you look, so I have to ask the question: is comparing Nigeria to Saudi Arabia fair? If you look at Q1 GDP, Saudi Arabia grew by 9.6%. Nigeria grew by 3.1%. Oil sector, and it's very interesting that these figures are the same. They are annualized for the first quarter. Their oil sector grew by 26%. Ours contracted by 26%. So they went in opposite directions. And I mean, the bigger one, I had to just put it there, but it's almost, oil production as of April. I was looking at OPEC's monthly report for May. 10.3 million barrels per day for Saudi Arabia. We're at 1.3. So, but look, there's something else that needs to be said. Looking at the city of Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia, the impact of petrodollars on the non-oil growth. If you look at how Riyadh has been developed, you look at Dubai and the United Arab Emirates, everything that they're trying to do with respect to growing their non-oil sector and diversifying away from oil is being funded by the money that they've made from oil. So you look at us and our non-oil growth prospects, like RT200, where we're looking to raise $200 billion in non-oil exports in 3 to 5 years. you have to look at what these other, oil export states in the Middle East in particular have done. And it is funded by oil. So, for Nigeria to be able to say that she wants to also grow non-oil and completely, look away from oil, they are linked. It's still the proceeds that you make from oil that is going to fund your growth. So, I don't know. It's an open question whether comparing the two is fair, but...
I think it's fair.
You think it's fair? Okay, all right.
I'll tell you why.
All right. We move to South Africa, still on oil and gas. South Africa is extending fuel subsidies for another 2 months. But interestingly enough, the subsidy is actually a cut in the taxes that they apply to fuel. So it's, which I guess it's still a subsidy, but they're going to be reduced. It started in April. I think they're extending it to July or so. And yeah, it's going to cost them about 4 billion rand. Again, I repeat, it is the taxes that they apply to fuel that they are cutting. Here is a quote from their Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. They said, the continuation of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, supply chain bottlenecks, and a tightening of global monetary policy have led to further unfavorable changes. This is very key here. In the two key drivers of the regulated petrol price, the exchange rates and the global oil price. Hello, I just want to repeat this again. The two key drivers of petrol price movements, the exchange rates and the global oil prices. These events have led to even larger increases in fuel prices compared to a few months ago when the temporary fuel levy relief was introduced. Finally, Kenya. We talked just yesterday about Kenya's Central Bank of Kenya surprising the markets and just raising their benchmark rate. Well, here's why. It looks like they got advanced information and they knew this number was coming out. Inflation just came out in Kenya. It's at a 2-year high of 7.1%. So if we take a look at the graphic from yesterday where we put up the figures where they hiked the benchmark rates to 7.5%. So I just, we changed that because yesterday was 6.5% in April. That's now 7.1%. So I was saying yesterday that, well, they're still ahead of inflation. Look now, 7.5% benchmark rate, 7.1% inflation. So they are just 40 basis points ahead. And again, I keep saying this, when you express language of chasing inflation as Jerome Powell has done and Andrew Bailey and everybody else, once inflation continues to hike, you are now in this cycle where you just have to keep once inflation continues to rise, you are now in this rate hike cycle where you have to continue to raise the rate to keep up. So we'll have to see how that transpires. But yeah.
Yeah. And okay, Tundu.
Yeah, Tundu, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to talk about Saudi.
Saudi Arabia,
yeah,
okay. Yeah.
I want to talk about this. I read this interview, I think it was on Monday in This Day, with Uche Orji of our Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority and our Future Generations Fund.
Right.
We have about 980 billion naira in the kitty.
Right.
It's not bad. I don't want us to be down on Nigeria because the point I'm just trying to make generally here, quite frankly, I would rather be Nigerian than Saudi, and that's the bottom line. A country that did not vote to even adopt the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I mean, the daily microaggressions I go through as a Nigerian woman are nothing compared to what women in Saudi Arabia go through.
Very
so
true.
I'm sorry.
Very
when
true.
you have all these statistics, it looks grim, but
yes, sure.
I'm sorry. Mass executions, horrendous place to live. I'm sorry.
I'm with you, Tundu. On that, I'm with you. But a couple of things. Let me also bust your bubble. Tundu. Nigeria can do better. We believe it's a great country. But we are not doing well.
Why not?
Let me tell you why. Botswana has something called the Pula Fund, a future investment fund. Ask me how much Botswana has on that fund. $4.1 billion.
And that's a country with what?
Botswana.
2 million population.
Botswana, $4.1 billion in the Pula Fund. I was talking about Saudi. I'll make a fair comparison between Nigeria and Saudi.
Okay.
Because we started better. I was talking about, 1938, the discovery, when America first saw oil out of Saudi Arabia. Set up Saudi Aramco. Started to make oil out. Brought about good governance, corporate governance. Put all the things in place. And look at how they have grown. They did the right things. We didn't do the right things. Our petrodollar, we ate it. We ate our money. We saw it like this. We ate it. In the 70s, when Yom Kippur War happened, the crude oil price rose from $3 to about $12 per barrel. We ate the money.
Right.
That was when we had the first and second industrial plan, Dr. Abad, isn't it?
Yeah.
What did we do with the industrial plan? The industrial plan was supposed to bet DSC. We're supposed to bet Katsina Rolling Mill. We're supposed to bet Ajaokuta. What did we do? All those companies are moribund today. Let me shock you. Saudi Arabia has a field called the Gawa Field. It was first discovered in 1948. Crude oil was first drilled off that field in 1951. Rotus, we can't service our fields. They are moribund. Look at how all the oil companies are complaining. We saw the field that was having the Christmas tree spill. Yeah. Saudi Arabia has been maintaining the Gawa field since 1951. Till date, Rotus is their highest producer. It produced 3.8 million barrels per day.
So that alone is double Nigeria's entire production.
Yes, one field, the Gawa field. Yeah. And it's been maintained since 1951, Rotus. 1951. Why we have lost it is because we are reckless, we are lawless, we don't introspect, but there are solutions. Let's take the learnings from other countries, manage our resource, do well by the people, shun corruption, improve on ourselves, we'll do better. And that's why I'm comparing Nigeria with Saudi Arabia this morning.
Yeah, but even before we got the Sovereign Wealth Fund off the ground, you recall that was really, people were fighting against it.
Because the governors want to eat the money.
Okay, so what is the residual point? The residual point is that whether you are comparing Nigeria with Saudi Arabia or the United Arab Emirates, it's about leadership.
Simple.
These countries get it right because they have the right leadership at critical moments. Whether you are talking about New Zealand or you are talking about any other country at all. What has happened in Nigeria is that we've been very unfortunate to have Division 2, Division 3, Division 4 persons leading the country. The problem with Nigeria is not the shortage of talent. The problem with Nigeria is that those talented people who can make a difference cannot get there because the door, the access is shut against them. And so the people you get getting there will be persons who are selected by delegates who, are paid to choose the wrong people. And we're still in that bind in this particular process. I hope a day will come when Nigeria will look at its best and brightest, the people that President Buhari refers to as the diamonds, and then say, we will prioritize these talented people who have the capacity to compete internationally, and not persons that are thrown up by geography, by ethnicity, and that we all celebrate. The media is part of the problem. Half of the people that we celebrate are not relevant. Yeah. They are of no use. Yes. So, okay, I don't want to be, what's that phrase you usually use? Peeing inside the house. But we are part of the problem also. We should admit that. Quickly. Yeah. The point you made about the Okada ban in Lagos taking effect from today. Yes. What the Lagos State government has done is to reassure us that, look, this is nothing new. This is just a reinforcement of an existing Lagos traffic law of 2012, that has now been reinforced. But we know the context of this, the killing of
young man,
of a sound engineer, Sunday David Imohi, in Lekki Access, and then the government suddenly woke up. So the government is saying there will be no chaos. The necessary precautions have been taken. We also know that many of these commercial motorcycles from a certain part of the country, they have since left town. Yes. We have seen an exodus, either out of town or to other parts. But certain questions remain. What is the alternative that the Lagos State government is offering?
Thank you.
Because there is some usefulness of these commercial motorcycles. Yes. I've been, beneficiary on some occasions. So what is being offered? Is it these drunken Korokwe drivers that are perpetually trying to disturb people with bigger vehicles on the road? Okay, what is the alternative? When are we going to have the mass transit program for transportation, the first item in the themes agenda of the governor of Lagos State, activated? Yes. When will the overpromised red line, blue line begin to work? So these are the questions. So unless those questions are addressed from Sanwo-Olu to whoever succeeds him, we will still have these problems. And then there is also the issue raised about discrimination. Because in some other local governments, we have not had that ban. And the Hausa Fulani community in Lagos, they put up a petition to say that there are people in Lagos are being strangulated economically and that they have voting power and that they could make a difference in the 2023 general elections. Sanwo-Olu having been selected as a candidate of the APC. What is the response of the state government to that?
But a more recent response, yesterday, they were talking about how a lot of those people are not from Nigeria.
Well, that's what they say. But what is but what is the truth? Yes. What is the truth? Yes. Because all the motorcycles we saw being taken out of Lagos, where are they being taken to? Are they going to Niger or Chad? Now, finally, on Kenya. Well, I mean, this is not surprising. Right. Yesterday, Kenya, you said, raised its monetary policy rate by 50 basis points from 7.2% to 7.5%. And okay, demand is going down. It's the same in every place because there are disruptions in terms of supply, including the supply of cash. Yes. Even here, you know, Nigerians are cutting down on their expenditure patterns. We have also seen a similar thing in England, where there is a cost of living crisis. You know, so the point about Kenya is just a confirmation. You know, and that country, having not raised rates for 2 years, found that it is not a sustainable position, accommodative position that they have taken. Nigeria too has raised its own rates by 150 basis points. So, but the analysts, the economists are saying even more rates have to be raised because you cannot sustain the present regime. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to more business update, Michael Wilson joins us now from London. Good morning.
Good morning. We'll start with Asia Pacific stocks, and we had an official recommendation and official data outlook from China. Yesterday, the private one, the Caixin market, is showing that it's about 48.1. Now, it's an improvement on April, but it's still not reached that 50 figure, which tends to divide, that separates between expansion and contraction. So the market's really wondering what to do. Mainland China's stocks were basically mixed. Hong Kong up slightly, Nikkei up about 0.5%. And in Australia, the S&P ASX 200 climbed about 0.1%. Its gross domestic product grew very, very slightly, 0.8%, but it's still above what the analysts were expecting. Here's an interesting one. India sees a second chance to pivot to the Indo-Pacific. It's going to be one. It's a member of the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, but it's pivoting towards that now. So what? Well, because it's showing an aversion to a pact which includes China, and it has geopolitical considerations at its root. And significantly, this is happening as the US overtakes China to become India's largest trade partner in the fiscal year ending 2022 in March. So that's quite a significant shift for what is clearly being seen around the world as a growing power, and also fairly pivotal in what's going on in supply chains, food, and all the rest of it as we speak. Israel has signed an historic trade deal with the UAE, the biggest with any Arab country. Bilateral trade, they're looking at something about $10 billion. The signing, and it's supposed to have opened a new chapter in the history of the Middle East. That's according to the UAE's trade minister from the Emirates. And the signing of the deal came, of course, as the unfortunately renewed violence between Israelis and Palestinians, but it's a significant move. Let's turn our attention to Wall Street. A bit of a recap there. Now, they were on holiday for Memorial Day on Monday, so their first day of trading basically in this shortened week was yesterday. Stock futures moving slightly higher on Tuesday evening. The month of May, the Dow and the S&P finished little change basically, but here's an interesting one. You're remembering Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary in the United States. She is given something which is fairly rare for senior politicians to say, do you know what? I was wrong. And she was wrong about inflation. It's a rare admission. She's saying it now, and it's clearly and completely now on Joe Biden's desk, and he's taking it soaring prices as something which he needs to fight very, very heavily indeed for his domestic approval in the midterms coming up. UK and the EU have hit Russian oil cargoes with an insurance ban. Now, this is quite important as well. This is with Lloyd's, and the thought was if the EU did that just on their own, which is part of their potential list of sanctions, it might open the market to UK insurance as well. That's now been settled. The UK and the EU have agreed that that's what they're going to do. Commodities people are saying it's a fairly tough sanction. Basically, it means that Russia oil is uninsured on the high seas. To the EU itself, Brussels is looking at a record inflation, 8.1%. I said yesterday it'd be fairly high. I was looking at what the analysts were saying, 7.4%, 8.1%. And even the core one, which excludes, for some reason, I don't even know why they bother with this, but it's called the core one. I have to report it, up from 3.5 to 3.8%. And that will surely push surely push Brussels to end its loose monetary policy and start raising interest rates quicker rather than slower, as it's been the ECB's been the last central bank to even indicate that. As far as the UK is concerned, we're coming up to this Jubilee weekend. It's absolute chaos as far as airlines are concerned. Transport Secretary has concluded this. Get this. This is the Transport Secretary. Airlines and operators have seriously oversold flights and holidays. This is something for discussion, is it not, ladies and gentlemen? That what we're seeing here is airlines which they may have sold tickets at cheaper prices. Now they're seeing all the prices going up. There's absolutely nothing that they can do. So they're cancelling flights. I mean, I know this. I was looking at the Daily Maverick. It's good reading that, actually, from South Africa. Comair is now being labelled as the Eskom. Those who have been following the power outages, not just here, but also in South Africa, will know what this means. They just simply turned up yesterday morning and said, no more flights. And you have to go to social media to check if you can travel from Cape Town to Johannesburg. Particularly, I only know this because that's what my wife's struggling to do as we speak. Now, finally, the oil price. Now, there were rumours going around late last night in New York that OPEC Plus, which meets tomorrow, might be saying to the other members of OPEC Plus, because Russia is being seen to have sanctions on its oil exports and the rest of it, they may have to jump in there. Now, that may or may not be true. Who knows? Maybe it's OPEC getting annoyed that Russia is actually selling its oil at a discount to the OPEC prices themselves. But Brent crude about $8 lower this morning, and WTI as well. There are various ways in which this is going to go, but we're seeing from about a high of over $120 down to about $116 as we speak. That is the global view.
All right, two things, Michael. Isn't Janet Yellen just plain lying that she didn't read the tea leaves about inflation numbers? Now she's backtracking on the things she said. They were just trying to mitigate the severity of the situation. Now it's burst in their face. So that's what was happening. I mean, she should come clean. Madam Janet Yellen, please come clean. Secondly, the inflation numbers in the EU, quite ridiculous. And those numbers are rearing the ugly head in the EU. I mean, what is the ECB going to do about this? You know, what is Madame Lagarde going to do as regards this? Because this has come to stay and it keeps increasing. And all the lie they were lying. Oh, inflation is transitory. Inflation is transitory. Hell yeah, it's not.
Well, you'd have to take that up with Ms. Yellen herself, actually, and good luck with that. I think that what she's actually saying is that it's what Reuters was saying, isn't it? What the United States is now doing is chasing inflation rather than stopping it. I mean, we have talked about this before, and they're clearly behind the curve, and she's admitting it. But she is a politician after all, as Treasury Secretary, and what she's doing is placing it straight to Joe Biden and saying, "Okay, this is what you want to do. You and the Fed can come to terms with this. I was wrong. I'm sorry." I mean, I don't know whether that's lying or not. I'm not It's very unusual for senior politicians to do that. As far as the ECB is concerned, yeah, they're going to have to come to terms with this, aren't they? And here is the thing which I keep going on about. You cannot have a sensible economic, one interest rate, one economic policy fits all across 27 nations. I rest my case. They're going to have to deal with it one way or the other.
Okay, Mike, I have three issues. One is economic, the other two are political. I don't know how you handle them. The first one is Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, the government is now advising people within the next 5 to 7 days to start planting paddy rice as a solution that will save the country from high energy prices, from high inflation. And meanwhile, the negotiation with the IMF, World Bank, is not moving fast enough. So would, as recommended by the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, the planting of paddy rice, what effect is that likely to have? Because the Prime Minister is saying, no, Sri Lanka is not going to face a food crisis, despite the fact that the country is already in default and is facing, to use a familiar phrase, an existential crisis. Two, Prime Minister Johnson in the UK, is it toast? 28 conservative Tory MPs are up in arms against him. Lord Gett, the Ethics Committee advisor, has said that there are questions to be answered and that, you know, he is not part of the shenanigans going on at 10 Downing Street. The other day you said, oh, the Prime Minister has escaped again. Has he really escaped? The second other political question is the L'Académie Française, you know, saying that, look, too many Anglicisms in betting games in France, and that people should stop using the English language. They should return to their original French, you know, language, particularly such phrases as esports or some other phrases like that amount, in the view of the L'Académie Française, to a debasement of the French language. Okay, looks like there's a language war. It's not new, but brewing afresh between France and England.
Well, let's do Sri Lanka first. I've got no idea how long paddy rice takes to fruition, so I just don't know. I mean, all I can say about Sri Lanka is that it's a completely self-imposed. The politicians messed it up to start with, and that's why Sri Lanka is in the state that it now is. And as I reported the other day, it looks like they may be taking help from China. It'll jostle with India and will China about the future of what used to be called Ceylon is now called Sri Lanka, and whether but certainly any help that the IMF gets is able to do won't happen for a few months. We know this already. So I look on in astonishment that the population will be looking at the government and saying, what are you talking about? So that's my position about that. As far as Boris Johnson's concerned, well, yes, again, I'm not an expert in politics, as you know. I thought that he might escape. I think what we're seeing now is they need 54 MPs rather than the 27. There's no question that the markets, and that's the only thing I can comment on, are looking at now what they call war games being played. And he is thought to be possibly thinking about a snap election. So that's where we are right now. So yes, you're absolutely right. There's a considerable amount of disturbance going on. Which way it will go, I have no idea. I'm not quite sure what you meant with your third question about French becoming. And I thought French was an international language. What was your exact point about it? That English should not be?
No, the French Culture Ministry is saying that the use of English expressions in gaming business in France is a barrier to understanding, and that the French people should ignore such phrases as esports and streaming and adopt, French expressions. So this looks like some competition at the level of language.
Okay, well, if it's a competition, I would refer you to international law and international trade agreements and anything to do with internet, which tend to be written in English. So yes, I'm certain it's a nice diversion for the French to do this. Nice joke. Thanks very much indeed. Now carry on with your lives. That's what I'd say.
It's always a nice diversion, which is what Boris Johnson is doing, reaching for Brexit anytime he finds himself in hot water with the imperial measurements nonsense. It's a bit of a one-trick pony in that regard.
We were going to talk about that yesterday. Yes. We didn't really have that. Once again, I mean, why anybody would want to do that? And already the British Retail Consortium, as you can imagine, saying this is absolutely crazy. It would involve hundreds of pounds, thousands, I don't know how much it is, they don't know either, how much in re-signing things, re-weighting things, redoing things, at a time when the whole retail industry is in crisis to start with. I do find that's a strange diversion. It may be something to do with the upcoming Jubilee bank holiday, who knows?
Right. Well, thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Au revoir, monsieur. For updates on COVID-19 pandemic, Adesso Moro is here with us. Adesso, great to have you. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Rafai. Good morning, Tunu. Good morning, Dr. Abati. Great to be here. And let's look at the figures this morning. According to the Johns Hopkins University, over 530 million infections have now been recorded in the last 2 years, over the last 2 years since this pandemic began. Again, the number of casualties as calculated by the World Health Organization in excess deaths are close to some 15 million people. But the Johns Hopkins University tally is reporting this morning that at least 11.5 billion doses of vaccines have now been administered across countries and territories of the world. Well, let's come to Nigeria, where in a bid to expand access to COVID-19 vaccines across the country, the federal government is now collaborating with community pharmacies. Executive Director and CEO or Chief Executive Officer of the NPHCDA, which is the agency in charge of vaccination, Dr. Faiza Shuaibu, said that this collaboration had become necessary, given that community pharmacies are one of the most accessible, easily accessible, and frequently consulted points of care for the public in Nigeria. Well, let's listen to what Dr. Faiza said, and a representative of community pharmacies in Nigeria, yesterday at the flag off of that collaboration here in Abuja.
Today, we are celebrating the official flag off of COVID-19 vaccination in community pharmacy. This is the first of its kind in public health, in public-private engagements towards the achievement of universal health coverage. Here is one public health initiative that is bound to improve access to vaccines. Given that community pharmacies are easily accessible, they offer extended hours of service and are trusted healthcare professionals, and as such, their inclusion in vaccination process will drive down vaccine hesitancy and improve coverage tremendously.
I want to recognize the strong leadership and commitment of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria and the Association of the Community Pharmacists of Nigeria for their relentless effort to ensure that this collaboration becomes a reality.
We're looking at the wider primary healthcare space, how we can collaborate with these community services to bring immunization services closer to the people, to bring primary healthcare services to the people. At the end of the day, what makes a difference is how we make sure that every Nigerian has access to vaccination, whether it is COVID-19 vaccination, routine immunization, or just basic primary healthcare services.
Well, there you have it. Let's quickly go to China, where the largest city, Shanghai, is set to reopen today after a 2 months COVID-19 lockdown that has set back the national economy and confined millions of people to their homes. Some people described it as very draconian, but authorities say they will take major steps on Wednesday towards reopening, as they say that the pandemic has been effectively controlled in the city. Well, some of the measures include a restoration of the full bus and subway service, as well as the basic rail connection to the rest of China. Schools will partially reopen on a voluntary basis. Shopping malls, convenience stores and pharmacies will open gradually at 75% capacity, but cinemas and gyms in Shanghai will remain closed. Back to you guys.
Well, okay, let's start with Shanghai. We touched on it briefly yesterday. And, you know, Shanghai, the manufacturing hub of China and a global hub for commercial activities for the major part of the world, deciding after a plan for a 9-day shutdown that has now gone beyond 70 days to open up. And the mayor of, the vice mayor of Shanghai is saying that the fact that they can now, you know, open up is a major victory for the zero COVID policy that was adopted. Now, if you look at the statistics, as far back as April, Shanghai was reporting a total of 200 cases per day. Now it's recording 20, as of Monday, 29 cases. And that is seen as a major excitement. And so today, Wednesday, we have seen an acceleration of the easing of restrictions, all in one fell swoop. And people are on the streets in Shanghai. They are, you know, popping champagne bottles. They are taking photographs. They are excited because the effect of that lockdown in Shanghai has been majorly psychological. People feeling like they were in prison. And now they are out there. As you said, only gyms and supermarkets will still remain shut down. But people can now travel in public transport. They can also travel by train to link up with other parts of China. However, there are restrictions still in place. One, you need to take a test, a PCR test, 72 hours. For you to be able to leave your community, you must have a green pass code, okay? So that zero COVID policy is still in place. And close to about 1 million people, in fact, over 650,000, in the areas that are still considered risky, are not allowed to go out. So while a segment of the population is now free, some other people are still under very rigorous watch. But what is more important is the economic dimension of it. The restrictions in almost 200 cities in China had affected the economic growth outlook of China. And there were fears also that China, for the most part under lockdown, will also affect global supplies, global growth, and all of that. And maybe that is why the Shanghai authorities have come up with a 50-point plan to help businesses. This will include reduction in taxes. This will include acceleration of building approvals. This will include, some packages for small and medium scale enterprises, and also some kind of incentives for people who buy cars. Don't forget that in Shanghai, you have Volkswagen, you have Tesla, and many other companies that were affected by a closed loop regime. But now many of these companies, they will begin to open up. The same situation that you have in Shanghai is also the situation that you have in Beijing, the capital, where also there has been a lowering of restrictions. That's that about that. Nigeria, the story you referred to, Dr. Faisal Shoaib, saying that Nigeria is now going to collaborate with community pharmacies. Well, before now, there was what they call a Scales 2.0 strategy, under which the Nigerian government wanted to, combine with, community units, health facilities. So this is in line with that. But I hope that they will talk about, making sure that the community pharmacies that Nigeria, the federal government, will liaise with. We're told there are over 6,000 community pharmacies across Nigeria. But are they all capable? That is the question. And what they want to do, maybe they look at the Ghanaian example. The Ghanaians have adopted that long before now to increase vaccination and testing. So it's not as if it's an original model. The other thing is that Nigeria has been able to vaccinate first time over 20% of the population, up to about 16.4% of the eligible population in Nigeria has been able to get the second dose. About 1.9 people, close to 2 million, have received booster doses. For a country that wants to achieve 71% immunization, we are still not there. So we still need to do a lot more. So what they want to do with the community pharmacies, yes, fine, but there are questions that should be raised, that they should advert their minds to. Thank you.